chapter of the Fathers. Shalom. Okay, we are now learning Pirki Avot. We talked about this before. What is Pirki Avot? Pirki Avot is a compilation of sayings about life, especially about Judaism, how to learn Torah, what attitude you should have toward other people, toward God, toward yourself, to be more careful, to be more happy, to have more love, to be more involved in serving God, in his Torah and his commandments, and with other people, and controlling your emotions, refining your emotions, refining your personality. But in this is the only tractate of the Mishna that doesn't have any laws in it. There's no laws, and there's no arguments. Every other tractate has different opinions and arguments, different views, and on laws, on what to do. And here, there's no there are different opinions, but not arguments. So let's see. We talked about this yesterday, and so we'll just go quickly over what we said yesterday. Starts off from Moses. Moses was the first one who actually got the Torah. He started the Torah. Before that, there was Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and it says that they actually knew the whole Torah before it was given. They wanted so much to serve God, and the Torah exactly corresponds to a person's body. In other words, the main thing of the Torah is, of course, what you do, what you think, and etc. But the main thing of the Torah is what you actually do. What you actually do. And even the commandments like loving God, it has to be expressed in your heart, your physical heart. You have to actually feel love, feel fear of God, feel awe of God. Love your fellow man. It has to be also an emotion. So you have to do. The main thing is to do something in the world. So that's what the Torah is. There are commandments from God to do things in the world. Commandment directly from God. But what about interactions between man and his friend? And there are certain things which are, how do you say, they're good character traits that seem to be only implied vaguely in the Torah. There we go. Good. So here, this bringing out these character traits that people should have to fix your personality. Now, usually this is learned between Passover and Shavuot. In other words, the time of the preparation, the 50 days between when the Jews left Egypt and they were preparing to receive the Torah. And also, they're learned usually in the summer, because usually in the summer months, that's the time when it's easier to be, how do you say, to fall into mistakes in the summer, because a person feels more loose and more sort of out, and he's mixing more with people, etc. So therefore, we learn Pirki Avot that a person should adapt the proper attitude. So here we go. Moses received the Torah from Mount Sinai. He gave it to his best pupil, Joshua. Joshua gave it to the Zikanim, which we said that those were mainly the judges that judged the land of Israel. That they're called judges doesn't mean they were judges that sat up in court and they judged. They made the decisions. Judges mean they made the decisions. In Israel, that was from the time of after Yeshua passed away until Samuel, the prophet. And it ended up with Samson. Sam was the last of them, of the judges. The judges, the leaders, whatever. It's the book of Shoftim. And after that, there came the kings. The temple was built. There was the kings of the first temple. who were the spiritual leaders? There was the prophets, the Nevi'im. That was the whole time of the first temple. They gave it to the people of the Anshe Knesset Gedola. Those are the people from the beginning of the second temple until around the middle of the second temple. The second temple lasted for 420 years. They were about 220, something like that. And the people of the Great Assembly, it's called the men of the Great Assembly. The men of the Great Assembly, they said three things. Be calm, systematic when you judge, make a lot of pupils, and make a fence around the Torah. Make a fence around the Torah. Here we get also the idea that the rabbis are supposed to make laws to ensure that you don't transgress the prohibitions of the Torah. Fences around the Torah. The last of the Knesset Gedola was Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik, he was a Kohen, and he took over from Ezra. Ever heard of Ezra HaSofer? Ezra HaSofer, he came from the exile with the Jews, and after him was Shimon HaTzadik. He said, on three things, the world stands: on the Torah, on service of God, usually that's prayer, also means the sacrifices in the time of the temple, and Gemilas Vasarim, acts of kindness. And he had pupils. Now we're here, this is where we go. Antigonos ish Socho. Antigonos, he was from the city of Socho. It was a city. Here, where is it? A place which is called Socho. Right? Ish means he was like the leader. In other words, so he said something, a very controversial statement. He said, Al tiyu ka'avarim, do not be like servants that serve the master, almanat, in order to receive a reward. This, if you remember, we learned in the Chassidut class in the morning, pras means like a little piece, a portion. In other words, don't be, in the morning Chassidut, we learned this is a Jew that serves God in order to go to heaven. But essentially what it means is, don't be a servant, don't serve God in order to receive anything to receive rewards. There are a lot of rewards, but don't serve God in order to receive them. You should be like servants that serve their master, not in order to receive a reward. Why would you serve your master if you're not going to receive anything? Because you love the master. You love the master. You're in awe of the master. You're just so happy to be able to serve the master. Who's the master? God. Now, why was this such a problematic statement? Because some people said, oh, look here. It says that there is no reward. You should be like a servant. You should be like a servant, serve God, not to receive any reward. There is no such thing as reward. No, what's wrong with that? That's pretty good. Serving God, not in order to receive a reward. Because saying that there's no reward essentially means that God doesn't care. He doesn't care one way or the other. He doesn't care whether you do good, you don't do good. You have a choice, right? You have a choice. You can either live life just free as a bird, do whatever you want to, or you can serve God for the sake of serving God. But God doesn't care one way or the other. Doesn't care. That's what some people will say. No, that's not what he meant. What he meant is there are rewards. There certainly are rewards. There's heaven, there's punishments, there's hell. God cares about whatever you do, but you shouldn't care. You should be interested not in what you receive, but what you should give. But people didn't take it that way. So what do we care if people took it? How people take it? There was a group in this time called the Tzadukim. Tzaduk and Beitus. What Beitus said, I don't really know, but it was two groups, and the Tzadukim became very famous, very powerful. The Beitusim, also, I never heard an explanation exactly what they were, but it was on the same line. What did they say? They said that the Torah has nothing more than face value. What's written in the Torah, that's what's there. Take everything at face value. Take everything at face value. And it was basically, you can interpret the Torah the way you want. There were certain ways that they also interpreted the Torah that they had and that they accepted these certain ways, but basically they weren't bound to the interpretations. Everybody could do however they wanted to. So, for instance, in the Torah, it says you shouldn't light any fire in your houses. There shouldn't be any fire lit in your house on Shabbat. So they used to sit Shabbat in their houses in the dark. It says you shouldn't go outside of your house on Shabbos. It says you shouldn't go out of the houses. So they used to sit in their houses the whole Shabbat in the dark. That was for them a good time. That's what they decided that God wanted. In other words, they were afraid of God. They were afraid they were going to get a punishment if God wanted to, but they weren't interested in receiving. Maybe they only thought you get punished and not rewarded. Could be also, right? Maybe they thought that if you don't do what God wants, then you're going to get punished. But you shouldn't have. Whatever they thought, they were wrong. But what they did think is that God doesn't basically really care what you do. And that's how they understood it. Let's see if he says it over here. Here it says. We'll have to see this later. I know in the Kahati, he explains it very clearly. Okay, so but what does it mean? Here, let's have a look here at the commentaries. Who said this? Antignos ish Socher. Antignos ish Socher, he was the pupil from Shimon HaTzadik, and he said, don't be like a servant that serves in order to receive a reward. Lashon erech. He says pras means to receive something valuable. Hu ma she'anam notein lemi she'avad oto. Then it's a wages. Hu eno chayev bedin litein lo klum. Kamo ma she'iten adam livno katan o lishto. Pras. Here pras means like a prize. Like a person gives a present to his small son or to his wife or to his servant just because he likes them. So don't do it. This is also called pras. That's how this is the Rab Avadia of Bartanura. What should you do? You should serve God. That's what he says. Don't serve God in order to receive any reward, but you should receive God only because you love God. You want to do what God wants because you love God. And the fear of God should be on you. Even though you serve God from love, but nevertheless you should also serve God from fear. Why? A person that serves God from love, what does he say? Don't serve God in order to receive reward, and the fear of God should be on you. A person that serves God from love, from love, Zuriz b'mitzvah, so he's very, excited to do positive things for God. But over Meir, a person that serves God from fear, is he's very careful not to do any transgressions. So Nim says the Avot Shalema, that'll be complete. But if a person serves only from love, so will do whatever God wants, but if he doesn't have any fear, so he's not going to be careful in the negative commandments. Right? In fact, he'll do whatever he can to make himself feel good. Right? If I don't eat not kosher food, then I won't be happy. Right? I want to be happy, and then I can serve God with happiness. And that's not good. That's not good. That's what the rabbis say. Ovid me'ava, ovid me'ira. You should serve God from love and from fear. If a person serves God from love, she'im bata li sona dat li snow da she'ata ohev ve'en ohev sono. If you come to have some reason to be angry at God, well, don't do it, because a person who really has love for someone else is not going to hate him. He's going to realize this person is doing something for my best. You should also serve God from fear. She'im bata lo bo'et. If you come and you say, I don't want to have anything to do with God anymore, you should know that you should have fear. And a person who's really afraid, he doesn't rebel. Right? A person is truly afraid. So you should know that God is very loving. He's very close to us. He loves us. But God is also very powerful. So therefore, a person should serve God because he loves God, and also because he's afraid. Now, there's different levels of fear. Here he's talking about a lower level of fear, but there's also a level of fear which a person is ashamed. He's ashamed in front of God to do something bad. He's not afraid that God is going to punish him. He's not afraid what's going to happen to him. He's going to go to hell. He's ashamed in front of God to do anything bad. That's a very higher type of fear. Right? He realized that God is so good that he's ashamed. Like some people you see in Israel, they'll, especially you see Sephardic Jews, the young ones, they don't keep Shabbat, whatever. They're sitting in the street smoking a cigarette. All of a sudden, one of them has this awe, his eyes get wide, and he throws the cigarette down. He takes a kippah out of his pocket and he puts it on his head. Everybody said, "What happened?" He said, "That's my grandfather." It's my grandfather, just came out of the synagogue. He said, "What are you afraid of him? Your grandfather, he knows karate or something?" He said, No. I'm not afraid that he's going to punish me. I'm just ashamed. So yeah, we saw fear in your eyes. Not nice. You know what I mean? So that's the type of fear that he's speaking about. In other words, not fear for yourself, but fear from the Creator. You're ashamed to do anything bad in front of him. That's how you should serve God. Okay, then there's going to have couples. Call a Tanaim, all the Tanaim that are going to be mentioned now, they're partners. They received, it says like these two partners, they received from the other two partners. The first one is the Nasi, he's like the leader of the Jews, the president or whatever you want to call it. And the second one was the Av Beit Din. He was the high leader of the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin. In Judaism, there always used to be a Sanhedrin, especially when the temple started. So there was the Sanhedrin. There was 71 men, 71, and then there was 23. There were different judicial courts all over because anybody who had questions in law, and that was the burning thing. Everybody wanted to go according to the Torah back then. There were no people like nowadays that you take it or leave it. Every Jew, it was a natural thing. You wanted to do what it says in the Torah. Everybody, but a lot of times there were questions that came up. So they would come and they would ask the Beit Din. That's one of the reasons why they wrote down the Mishna and the Gemara, because after the temple was destroyed, then there was the Jews got scattered around, and there weren't always judicial courts available for all questions. And if there were judicial courts, there were a lot of times rabbis, if they didn't know what other rabbis said, because they were all cut off when they were in Israel, they were all close together. So that's one of the reasons they wrote it down. That's what we're reading in this Mishnah. This is all the Tanaim that are mentioned now. They're going to be this is the first of them was the Nasi. He was the leader. And the second one was the Av Beit Din. He was the head of the judicial court, the big judicial court in Jerusalem. So this is Rabbi Yossi ben Yoezer Ish Tsoreda. He was the leader of this place called Tsoreda. And Yossi ben Yochanan, he was the leader of Jerusalem. They received from them. Now, there's a little bit of a question, who is them? Here we only have one person, Antigonus ben Socho. Some people say it means they received from Antigonus ben Socho and his teacher, who was Shimon HaTzadik. Some Mishnah say Mimenu, from him, from Antigonus Ish Socho. In any case, they were the next in the chain of giving over. Of course, all these people had a lot of pupils, but these were the main ones. Yossi ben Yoezer said, your house should be open. Your house should be a meeting place for the wise men. And you should sit in the dirt of their feet. In other words, sit at their feet in humility and learn the Torah. And drink with thirst their words, the words of Torah. So we're talking about passing down the Torah. Now these next three we're going to see, these next three opinions are going to be really explanations on what Shimon HaTzadik said, that the world stands on three things: the Torah, Avoda, and Gemilas Chasadim. Torah means learning the Torah. Avoda means serving God, prayer, and Gemilat Chasadim means giving acts of kindness, giving charity. So here we have, first of all, the idea of serving God. It says, serving God. What does he say? Don't be like a slave that serves God in order to receive reward, but you should serve God not in order to receive anything, only to give. Yeah, that's serving God. So what should your service be? Your only interest should be what Hashem wants, to do it for the sake of Hashem. You should know also, when a person does what God wants, it makes God happy. This doesn't make any sense, but it's true. It says nachat ruach, that God gets a reach nichoach, he gets a pleasing spirit in front of God. Then when you do what he says. That's next is learning Torah. Yossi ben Yezer said, your house should be open to the wise men. Then you can learn Torah. You can learn words of wisdom. And you should sit at their feet. Kolom, in other words, that you should go after them. When they go from one place to another, a person that walks as he brings up dust from his feet. You should go after them and wherever they go, even in the dust of their feet. Another explanation means that you should sit on the ground, and because that's how they used to do. The rabbi used to sit on a little bench, and the pupils would sit on the ground and learn from them. You should drink with thirst their words. This is the explanation of Rabbi Avadia of Bartanura. Like a person who is thirsty, that he drinks for his, to satisfy himself, and not like a person that's already satisfied and he doesn't want to drink anymore. Some people say, Torah, I don't want to learn. I've already learned enough. No, you should always be thirsty for the Torah. Here he says, there's a Tosfot Yontov, Yossi ben Yezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, they received from them. Who is it? They received from Shimon, a tzaddik, and from Avot. Some people say, Mimenu, received from him. Okay, that's what we said. That was the one of these partners, right? Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan. Yossi ben Yoezer said that your house should be open for the wise men. That's the thing of learning Torah. So we already have avoda, right? Serving God, should serve God only to do God a favor, not that God should do you favors. That's serving. Here is learning Torah. And what's left? Charity. Yossi ben Yochanan, East Jerusalem said, Yehi beitcha patuach l'ravacha. Your house should be open wide. The door should be open. Yehu aniyim b'nei beitecha. And poor people should be invited into your house. Poor people. This is talking about gemilat chasadim, doing charity, acts of charity. Aniyim below yikneh avadim l'shamsho. He says, and if you want someone to work for you, have poor people, hire them. Hire people. It says, Aniyim b'nei beitcha, should have poor people should do work in your house. They should be working. Hire them. It's better that Jews should be working for them and not strangers to work for you. Okay, one more sentence two more lessons that Rabbi Yossi ben Yochanan said. He said, Al tarbeh sicha im isha. Don't speak too much with women. It's talking about your own wife. Now, this is also talking about in the time of the Talmud, in the time of the Second Temple, second and afterwards, where the main emphasis was learning Torah. Then the main emphasis was learning Torah, and it could be speaking too much with a woman, as in other words, there wouldn't be words of Torah because women are not commanded to learn the Torah. So you would be in those days wasting your time. Now also, you're not supposed to talk too much with anybody. Now the big problem is talking with men in the synagogue. People talk too much, so that's also a thing you have to keep away from. But here it says don't talk too much with your wife. It's talking about with your wife, but kol v'chomer b'ishes chavero. How much more so with a strange woman? From here it says anytime that a person speaks too much with women, as he causes bad to himself, he negates learning Torah. In the end, he will go to hell, Gehenum, punishment. Let's just look what it says over here. Why? Nimshach, because if he talks too much with empty words, then Here. Mikan Omer Chachamim. From here, the wise men said, no. Where did these Mishnas come from? They came from Rabbeinu HaKodesh, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, he realized that Israel is going to be scattered around, and so he organized all these Mishnayot. He had an amazing memory, and so he organized all of these Mishnayot, and also he organized Pirki Avot. So Rabbeinu HaKodesh, that he organized the Mishnayot, as he is talking about, when he said, don't speak too much with a woman, so people learn to say, all the time that a person, if he speaks too much with women, he causes bad to himself. I've also found written, this is what Rabbi Avadia says, Rabbi Avadia Bartanur says, when a person talks with his wife, karotav, kachvatav, what happened, etc., etc., this is what happened to me with somebody, is what? He malamato lacharchariv. She might bring him to make argument, to, how do you say, to make an argument. What does it mean? She says, what? You're going to let him get away with that? What type of a man are you? Etc. Like Korach, for instance, he spoke to his wife, what happened, what Moshe did to him, and that he treated him badly, he let the other Levites do sacrifices and not him. And this eventually brought him to make a big argument with Moshe. Or because he will speak to her that his friends did something bad to her, and she'll also say the same thing, right? He'll go to his wife and he'll say, you know what happened to me? My boss yelled at me, and she'll think to himself, your boss was right. You know, I see that everybody hates my husband. It must be he's not a nice person. And this will cause, and by means of doing this, he causes bad to his own self. All right, a person has to take this with a big grain of nowadays, with a grain of integrity and understanding exactly what is being spoken about over here. But generally speaking, what he's saying is that the main purpose of a Jew is to serve God. That, for instance, that's why there's no women in synagogue. Why there's no women in synagogue? The men and the women are separate. Why is that? Because a man sits with his wife, he'll start to talk to her. He'll talk to her, she'll talk to him, right? Even if there's no matters of, the physical things going on. Just the fact of the matter is he feels at home with his wife, and it's supposed to be that in synagogue, a person is supposed to be close to God. That's what he's supposed to be thinking about. Similar, learning Torah, place of learning. A person is supposed to be thinking about God. Usually, the wife is more for mundane things, day-to-day things. But it's not to say that a person should ignore his wife, God forbid. And certainly also not saying that he should not listen to his wife, what he says. It says he shouldn't do too much talking. He shouldn't do too much talking to his wife, but listening he can do. Exactly the opposite. The more listening that he does, the better. Okay. Excuse me 1 second, one moment. All right. Yehoshua ben Parachia and Nitai Arbeli, they received from them. Now we're getting to the end of the first temple. The second temple, I'm sorry. We're getting to near the end of the second temple. Yehoshua ben Parachia, that was the next couple. Yehoshua ben Parachia, he was the Nasi, he was the leader. And Nitai Arbeli, he was the head of the Sanhedrin, of the court. They received from them, from Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan. And they said, Yehoshua ben Parachia said, Aseh lecha Rav, make for yourself a rabbi. Kana lecha chaver, and you should buy for yourself a friend. V'avi dan et kol adam l'kav zechut, and you should judge everyone to the positive side, the side of merit. There's another saying that says, don't judge a person until you reach his place. You see a person that's doing something bad, Don't judge him too quickly. It could be that he's in a bad situation, a bad state of mind, etc. So let's see what he's saying. You should make for yourself a rabbi, and you should buy for yourself a friend. Let's see what this means. There's a very interesting Rambam over here, but we won't have much time to do it. Yossi ben Yochanan, I'm sorry, skipped. Yeshua ben Parachia, what did he say? The Rambam explains, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, that even though you should make a person into your rabbi, even though the person is not really fit to be your rabbi, you should make him a rabbi over you. What's the purpose of that? You shouldn't learn between you and yourself. In other words, you should find somebody that you can ask questions to, and God will help. The Rebbe made a big, almost like a big project out of this, that everybody should have a Rav, somebody that they can ask questions to take advice from. And even if the person is not really superior to you, and a lot of people, they can't find anybody ever that's superior to them. Some people think that they're superior to everybody. So therefore, the Rebbe said that he wants everyone to have themselves a Rav. Even those people that think that they are the top of the world and that they can't, but nevertheless, they should also make someone that they can consult. He said a person shouldn't learn just by himself. He shouldn't make his own decisions. And the Bartanura said, I heard, Rab, you should receive on yourself one teacher that you should learn from him all the time, and don't go around learning from one person and throwing that person away and then learning from somebody else. Even though that another place in another tractate, Avot, it says that a person that learns Torah from one rabbi, that he won't see any blessing, but it's already meant that when it is talking about explanations of the Torah. But the laws of the Torah, it's good that a person should go according to one policy of learning the Torah, right? But as far as Gemara, as far as learning laws and ideas, it's better to learn from one person because Kihechi the law livgan l'shania, in order that he should not get confused by the second person. Okay, in other words, you should have one person better that you learn from, and then other people you can consult with and see ideas. This is what he said. This is what Yeshua ben Parachia. In other words, what's he mean? Take learning Torah seriously. You should, and from one rabbi, even if he says things that maybe you don't like, never learn, unless it becomes impossible, then you can find somebody else. But try to find one person that you receive from, and that will make Torah a serious thing by you. If you start changing rabbis, then eventually you'll throw them all away and you won't have anybody to learn from. Also, you should buy yourself a friend. What does it mean buy? Even if you have to expend money in order to make him your friend. You have to travel far away. He's getting married somewhere. He's making a bar mitzvah for his son. It's good to have a friend. But with a Rav, it doesn't say you should buy him, even though that's, okay. Not to buy the rabbi. A rabbi, you can't buy. A rabbi is supposed to teach you for free. And finally, you should judge every man positively. And when it's talking about the kaf zechut, says the kaf zechut means to the side of merit. It used to be they used to have scales like they have, the statue of justice, whatever it is. It's supposed to be a woman. She's holding a sword in one hand and a statue of a woman holding a scales on the other. What's the scales? It's like two cups, and there's a pool in the middle, and the two cups are equally weighted, right? Equal. So you're supposed to judge everybody without any preconceptions. So he says here he's saying something even more. If you hear bad things about a person, you're supposed to try to make excuses for him. When something is on the scales and you don't know which way to go, for instance, a person that you don't know what his deeds are, if he's a good person, if he's a bad person, and he does some deed that you can say, well, maybe he did it because he's doing it because he's a sinner. Maybe he does it because it's something good. You could say one way or the other. So Miras Chasidus is that you should judge him the proper way. I give you an example. You look in the synagogue in the nighttime, you go and you see somebody's emptying out the charity boxes on the thing, right? And you say, go to your friends and what I went in and I saw the rabbi was emptying out the charity boxes, right? Was that the rabbi of this? He says, no, he was emptying out the charity boxes of the synagogue. He says, yeah, but there were different charity boxes from different charities. Wonder why he was doing that. So okay, now you can think to yourself, the reason that he was doing that was because he's a thief. Or maybe the reason he's doing that is so that nobody else will steal it, right? Or maybe he just has different charity boxes for different aspects of the synagogue. In other words, try to find some way, if everything is equal, to judge him positively. But if there's a person that you know he's a liar, a cheater, then it's permissible to judge him negatively. Shalom omru ella hachoshed v'kasherim lo kavagufo. It says you shouldn't suspect innocent people. It says if you suspect someone that's innocent, then you get punished from heaven. Not a good thing. But this means that what? If you suspect an innocent person, but if a person is not innocent, or he's known to have done bad things, so then you can suspect him. There's another saying that says you should never judge a person until you get to his place. And I heard from one famous chassid, his name was Rabbi Mendel Futefes, he said the only person that can really put himself in the place of somebody else is the Rebbe. But every other person, it's very easy to judge him for negatively. The only person that you always judge positively is yourself. Always. You do the worst things, whatever it is, and a person makes excuses for himself. Unless there are people that they're always finding something wrong, they're always miserable. We're not talking about that. A normal person, he always makes excuses for himself. That's what he does. And for other people, he never makes excuses. Well, the Rebbe is saying here, this is what the Mishna is saying, it should be the other way around. That's what explained, that's what it means, love your neighbor as yourself. The same way as you love yourself and you cover over all of your faults and make excuses for all of your faults, that's how you should love your neighbor. Cover over all of his faults as well. Overlook them. That's what it means, done your friend to the kaf zechut, to the side of merit. Let's just do one more. Nitai Arbeli. Nitai Arbeli. He was the other partner. Yeshua ben Prachia and Nitai Arbeli. Yeshua ben Prachia, he was the one that said, right, make for yourself a rav, buy yourself a friend, and judge everybody favorably. What does Nitai Arbeli say? Harchek mishachen ra. Keep away from a bad neighbor. Al titchaber l'rasha. Don't be friends with an evil person. Usually the evil people, they're the stronger ones and they're the successful ones. Well, it's not bad to be friends with someone who's strong and successful, but if you know that the person is evil, that he's a bad person, keep away from him. And also, al tityayesh mi'aproniot, pur onut, and never give up from pur onut. What does it mean? A person, you see the evil people succeeding, don't think there's no God in heaven. Look, here's a proof. Here, look how he's succeeding. He's doing all these terrible things, right? The Nebuchadnezzar, the Romans conquered the temple, the Babylonians, they destroyed the first temple. Don't think that because the evil people succeed, as that there won't be any retribution. There will be retribution. They'll last for a certain amount of time, but eventually God will give them what they deserve. Eventually, don't give up on it. Don't give up on it. Also, this also means that sometimes you have to let God judge things. You have to let God judge. You don't have to always take things into your own hands and get mad and take revenge, etc. There are certain times, according to the Torah, where you can take revenge, but not anymore, not nowadays. It says that there's the whole story of the Goel Hadam. According to the Torah, that if someone kills a nearby relative of yours, and he does it through negligence, you can kill him. But you have to know for sure that it's negligence. You have to know it's not simple laws. But except for that, you're not allowed to take revenge. Lo tikom, lo tatur. You're not allowed to take revenge. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Have a good day with Mashiach. I hope to see you at 8:15 in the morning. Shalom. Have a good day.